the 2023 story of everybody's going to get the sister-wife show canceled. We better shut up the kids with NDAs because nobody should know the truth about what happens in our house. Saga continues, because now Mykelti Brown with her husband was interviewed by Sarah Frasher, who was a podcaster where she talked about all things, many things about the show about life, about this past season, how many more seasons there's going to be, and then towards the end of it, Sarah asked questions about what was the worst thing that or the most dramatic thing that she's gotten in trouble with for saying on her platform, or if she's gotten in trouble for doing something on her platform with her family or that she's gotten backlash for. And candidly, Miss Mykelti spoke about a Patreon where she had addressed Meri Brown. And in her Patreon in 2023, she had addressed some claims that her brother Peyton brought forward on John Gates' podcast at the very end of 2022. And on that podcast, he made accusations that Meri was the worst of all of them. And what she did to the kids went well past verbal. It's what he said. Well past speech. Well past speech, but didn't say what it was, but he did say what his dad did, which is odd. So he stated that his dad did things to him physically, but Meri, it was well past verbal. So he wouldn't go there. And then Gwendolyn had to out of Patreon at the time. And so then she responded and people started asking her what did Meri do? What is this about? What do you remember? Her and Gwendolyn said that she had recalled that she saw Meri and Mykelti one specific situation where things got physical, but she didn't recall anything beyond that. And that she also said that she never experienced anything like that with Meri and that she also believed that people can change and that she had a really good relationship with Meri and she does still to this day. And so Gwendolyn in that same video also said that her dad was physical with her. Meri getting physical was the bigger talk than Kody, which I still don't understand why. Why are we putting this all on Meri when the kids won't even say what happened? And they will say what Kody did to them, It's just weird. Super weird. And then Christine handled this very, very high level in her book, not addressing anything physical. And again talked that there was strict rules in Meri's house about how people ate and how kids finishing their food and sleeping and dishes and how things were so many rules. No jumping on chairs, no food in the living room, just a stricter parent than Christine and Janelle. And Mykelti has since shared a story about how she was a young kid and they were all eating dinner together and Meri was taking care of him that night and she and her siblings were sticking each other's tongues out at each other and instead of allowing Mykelti to finish eating, I guess. Meri put Mykelti in another room under a table and she had to go to bed hungry. That's truly the extent of anything that Mykelti has said that Meri's done at this point that goes beyond yelling. Christine mentioned that in her book that Meri yelled at Mykelti when she was young when she went to the store because she didn't have enough money and she asked for 10 cents or something like that and that there was just a lot of fights between, her and Meri about how she chose to
discipline the kids. And I'll be frank here, this is fundamentalism. This was the Apostolic United Brethren Mormon fundamentalism, not the LDS mainstream church, but still the same book, the Book of Mormon. All of the other books by the older prophets like Brigham Young, and that they do follow that religious belief system. And it's very broad, spoil the child.
So I don't think it should really surprise anyone that this would happen in their home. I think there's a lot of fear in this community because of this idea that if something does get exposed, it's going to get blown out of proportion and there will be kids removed what happened. And I'm not saying that this was blown out of proportion because it wasn't, but when they did the raid on the Texas compound with Warren Jeff and all his wives' wives at that Texas compound where he had the United Order and the best people there where he was doing terrible things and they took thousands of children or hundreds of children. And so there's this permeating fear that, any reveal about what happens inside these homes will automatically be met with law enforcement. Which is silly really because the Sister Wives have been on air 16 seasons. They lived as a polygamous family until only a few years ago. And in that time, There was only one ever investigation, and it was linked to bigamy charges. And they fled the state of Utah. They had no problems in Vegas that we know of, and no problems in Arizona that we know of. So I'm not really sure, the fear that they spread that, if you tell the truth, something bad is going to happen. But that's sort of where we are today. So on the show, Mykelti shares that she had made a video in 2023, and this video got her in a ton of trouble. So let me show you the video she made. I am going to read it from my phone. And I've been typing and I've been working on it for a little bit now because I think that just spewing forth, I just want to make sure that I'm actually heard. So this is going to be read exactly. But this is me. I'm reading this. This is what I myself wrote. I'm speaking on my own personal experiences and view of Meri Brown. I don't want to discount my siblings' experience with events with her, though. I don't remember Meri ever being physically abusive to me. She was very mentally and verbally abusive to all of us when we were younger until I think we got old enough and she stopped because, I don't know, we were able to fight back or something. I guess we were just too old for her to continue. I honestly think I got the brunt of it. I think Dad and my brothers have told me multiple times that they think that I did receive the worst that she gave. However, I think that we were all touched by her. Now, as adults, her and I do both sell Lulau, which is a clothing business. So from time to time, and the official says we do cross each other. We don't really engage, but we're cordial. She's not, nor will she ever be part of my life, nor my husband's or my kids' lives because of the trauma I've experienced as a child growing up. Okay, so this was the video that she posted after there was a ton of headlines all over the news about how Hayden had said that Meri was awful, and he had referenced that Maddie had said something about it, and he could confirm that this was horrible, and they were all using the word word, and saying that this was what Meri did. And Mykelti denies that anything physical happens. And for whatever reason, this video that she posts in response allegedly to this backlash is something that got her in trouble. I can't really understand why, because she didn't really say much. She simply said that she was bad to them as kids, and maybe nothing physical happened that she remembers. And I mean, nothing here shocks me, but they were worried the show was going to get pulled, I guess. So on Sarah Fraser's podcast, she handled this moment where this got her in trouble. And this is what she said. Caused a ton of backlash and a ton of negative stuff. And we got in serious trouble. Family, other people, it was don't say that word 'cause that word can totally end the entire show. It could end all of our cash. It could make investigations happen. Because that word in 2024 means something different than it did in 2009 in the 2000s. It means something different. So it's if you say that word, you have to have a lot more context. You have to give the whole story. You have to be ready to give a statement So that word, I said it once and I explained it a tiny bit, but not enough. So it was this is a no word. Hey, this is an unpopular opinion for people that are fans of the show, because there are podcasters like Sarah that love the show and it's entertainment to them. And so I don't want to rain on Sarah's parade because that's not what I'm doing here, because my platform has never been to be a fan of the show. I've always been someone that really wants to reveal the harms of what's happening, especially to kids and women in these groups, these fundamentalist cults. And so for Mykelti, my original response is really just one of sadness. And I showed this clip to my husband after she said it. And my husband said, whoever is telling her that she can't say what happened to her, and an investigation will happen and police will get involved and an affidavit will have to be signed as lying to her, or that the show is going to get canceled. He said, who cares? They're brainwashing her. They're making her feel guilty. They're telling her she has to stay silent and be quiet.
And my husband and I grew up where corporal punishment was in our homes. We are
we understand what life is like when you grow up this way. And he had it much worse than I did. And I mean, I wouldn't say it was just different, right? And both of us had going through that trauma from our youth. So we get it.
And it seems a little bit strange that being an adult and being able to make a statement that you experienced something with someone else who is in a parental figure to you, and that speaking about what it was that you would do or what happened to you would somehow open up an investigation is very weird, because what she said was so minor compared to what Hayden said and to what Gwendolyn said. I mean, Gwendolyn said her dad threw her up in the air and used paddles, and Peyton said that he would punch him in the mouth, and none of them said anything about what Meri did. And again, there was no talk whatsoever about Kody doing these things. It was all like, well, Meri's the monster. And at the time I wrote about what is it that Meri did. And I've spoken to people that know Meri, and they say, all of the adults used physical punishment. That was just what they did. And this is how they grew up. And this is that world. And that nobody gave it more than anyone else. It might have felt different if it was from a different dad. Meri was definitely more straw strict, but each person in the family, had their own experience. And it's an unhealthy dynamic, because the women are unhappy and they're sad and they're heartbroken and they take it out on the kids or they take it out on each other. And it's just a really sad setting for everyone involved, right? And so that's why I exist, is to talk about that. And so with that long-windedness, it's to say that I just feel sad that it's 2026 and a woman who's an adult that has 3 children has a Patreon that's built on the fame of the show and the notoriety of the show, and knows that the show has hurt the family. Specifically, Mykelti has said that 1,000,000 times that none of her brothers want anything to do with the show. The show has ultimately damaged this family so badly that some relationships will never be restored because of what has been said and happened on the show. That greed has totally, decimated the family. Like all the adults, according to Mykelti in this interview, got greedy and fought over money, because the more money they made, the more they fought about money. I think that's wrong. I think Kody and Robyn were definitely the most greedy. But all of that is to say is she knows that this show has caused harm. She knows that the show is putting her mom, and Janelle and Meri in a situation where they can't get away from her dad. And I understand that it's hard when you're the child. You want to see the best in your parent. And I know that she doesn't want to see the worst in her dad. I also know that she doesn't have a relationship with her dad. But it's difficult. And so I just think it's sad that as an adult, she's more worried about what her adult parents have to say and how it will impact their job, when the truth is, if someone's telling her that she's being gaslit. If anyone's making her feel guilty for speaking about what happened to her or what happened to her brothers at the hands of anyone to cover up something so they can stay profitable, is gaslighting her. If something really bad happened, say it. Who cares if your mom loses her job? She will find something else. Same with Meri. Same with Janelle. I mean, it's a 2026. It's about damn time they get honest, at least in my opinion, about what happened in this family. And I understand none of these kids asked to be public. But I also hate that for years this topic has been danced around by the family when we know it's a part of their family. And if it's a part of the family and they're fooling people, the public has a right to know. And so instead of saying, well, you can't say that because we'll lose our show and the police are going to come. No, they're not. No one's investigating Meri. It was like 20 years ago and the statute of limitations are over. And the only thing I can think of is someone would sue her. And if they sued her, Meri would look bad. Meri's not going to sue anyone. If she was going to sue anyone, she would have sued Kody, right? I just feel so sad that they are still so like it. The indoctrination in this group is still so overwhelming. Because these kids from the time they're born are basically told they have to protect their families, they have to lie, they have to protect polygamy. And I work with this woman who helps me on tons of stuff, and she's from this group. And even to this day, she will feel like sadness about like I was abused as a child, but if I told anyone, I was afraid that my mom would get arrested. And I'm like, well, why would your mom have gotten caught if someone not your mom abused you? And she was like, you're right. Wait a minute. That doesn't even make sense. But that's how they're taught. They're told that if they say anything, the cops are going to come in and split their families apart. And they are taught from a very young age not to trust police. The cops are the enemy. And I don't see TLC canceling the show because, quite honestly, TLC hasn't canceled the show the entire time, and terrible things have happened with Kody. I think Kody might have been more worried about his image being destroyed. But again, all of this is to say is this makes me sad. It makes me sad because I don't know who's gaslighting her to think that she can't say what happened. I don't think that. And I also need to say that abuse meant the same in 2009 as abuse means in 2024 and in 2026. Abuse is abuse. Abuse was this.
Abuse was that. And it's all abuse. The only thing I can think of is they would say, well, back then it wasn't cruel to paddle. Today it is, but it's still, corporal punishment is not illegal in most states, sadly. So that's the only thing I can think of is them saying, well, spanking was an abuse back then. But we don't know what it even was, quite honestly.
And they had Kate Gosselin, who used to walk around with a rod in her hand and then whap the kids on the butt, and she had a spanker in her car. So I don't think they're going to be getting rid of anyone over accusations, quite honest. And they had the Duggars, who had the rod of encouragement, and they pushed, training up the child or to train a child.
I can't remember the book by Michael Pearl. So it just makes me sad that someone in Mykelti's life is still gaslighting her to think that being honest about what she experienced is wrong, because it's not. And I know Mykelti hates me, and she thinks that I steal her content, or she thinks that I'm out to get her family, and I'm really not. I don't. She talks about me a lot on her Patreon. She doesn't like how I report. She doesn't like what I report. The family hates me because I've argued against making it more harsher penalties, the government cracking down to split up and to penalize the men. And I understand to them it's their family, but to the wider world, what we see is women being trafficked and children being abused. And so I'm not doing it to hurt her, I'm doing it to help her. And I've been fighting against the harms in these cults for years because of that. So she can hate me all day, but in my heart I know that even though I'm not a fan of the show, I am a fan of anyone using their voice to speak the truth to power and to not being afraid and to not being silent. And I hope at some point, the more she comes out of this, she realizes that those of us that have been doing this for so long, that do it not because we're fans, but because we want these kinds of crimes to be penalized, we don't want this to exist in a civilized society, and we want these men to be criminally held responsible for what they're doing. It's not about hurting the women or the children. It's literally about helping them. And they don't know that they need help, but whatever. Again, someday maybe they'll understand that my heart was in the right place. But that's what I have to say about Mykelti. It makes me sad. And it makes me sad that to this day, she doesn't feel like she can talk about what she endured or what it was that happened. And that any of these kids feel like they can't be honest because if something happened in the house that was wrong, whether whoever it was, I don't care who it was. I'm not saying Meri did anything. I'm saying any of them. There's no harm in telling the truth ever. So, what are your thoughts about it? Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.